or series lit your fuse and made you have to tell stories on screen?
Who would like to start, boys?
You got it, John.
Okay, I'll start. When I was in the second grade, I saw Jack Black's The School of Rock, and that lit my fuse. Before that, I was obsessed with the rapper Eminem and 50 Cent, and I refused to listen to the Beatles or Led Zeppelin. And then I saw School of Rock, and my whole world changed, not just musically, but like comedically, and wanting to tell stories of like, with somebody like Jack Black as the protagonist. It kind of like blew my mind. Where finally like comedy became like clear. I understood what it meant to like be funny and how powerful that could be. And I remember seeing it with my mom, and then I had my dad take me to the theater to see it 4 more times. So I saw it 5 times in about a month.
Was there a scene or maybe something that happened in there that just that stuck with you in particular?
It changes it's my favorite movie, so it changes all the time. So recently, the last time I watched it, which was probably a couple months ago, it's the scene where Jack Black is talking to Lawrence, who feels like he's a loser. And Jack Black's ability to go, "You are kick-ass," and he does the let's rock today, totally made me sob and completely cry, because it's just so powerful. You really believe in him. And I remember as a kid feeling like his ability to do that was like nobody else had done that. Somebody who's just like, no, you're not a loser, you're awesome, and you have power and swagger.
And didn't you want to be a rapper before that?
I did. I wanted to be a rapper. I would spend my time like I would play Eminem in my living room and perform it to my dog. And then after, I should send you a picture of me after I saw School of Rock, where I would like do like a faux hawk, and like I learned how to play guitar, and yeah.
I'd love it. Now, so what, did you have a rapper name?
I'm sure I did, but not one I would repeat. But
so Martin, tell me about the one that lit your fuse.
I was going back and forth on a lot of different ones. I didn't watch too many movies. I remember Indiana Jones was very big when I was really young, but like honestly, Wet Hot American Summer probably had the most like impact, because it was kind of the first like adult comedy movie I had watched, and the like level of different kinds of jokes that are happening in that movie, it just like really like excited me about like what was possible. I think a lot of people have had that experience with that movie. I think that's a pretty common thing among like comedians now.
Totally.
Yeah, just remember like walking away from that movie and being like really excited.
Well, was there something in particular that grabbed you?
I mean, the whole thing, there are so many good jokes in that. Like Chris Maloney's whole sort of like character and performance is so crazy. I remember really liking that. I remember the ending feeling really good, and like it's so funny and crazy, and everything kind of comes together, and it's so like weirdly earned, even though it's like pure insanity. I liked that like everything kind of like collapsed in on itself in that like final sort of like moment where the space station or whatever is crashing into the camp.
And Ben, how about you?
I would say Napoleon Dynamite, which I was probably 10, 11, 12 range when I first saw that at a friend's house. And it was the same thing as John with School of Rock. It just like rocked my world, and my entire personality for probably the next 3 years was just quoting Napoleon Dynamite.
Yep.
I went as him for Halloween. I had a Vote for Pedro t-shirt. I watched that movie so many times that we started watching it in Spanish just to like make it somehow different. We really wore it out in my house, and if you played it for me today, I could still like recite the whole thing along with it. I don't know. I remember at the time, like, even young kids were like, it makes no sense, and it's just so like random. But I don't know. It just felt like made for me, and I still think it's great. Like, I watch it now, and I'm like, this is a weird portrait of like middle America and like what it feels like to live in a small town where there's like it's kind of like all stuck in the past and nothing's really happening, but everything feels so heightened and emotional. I love that movie.
Well, now, also, it made you feel like you could have red hair and be the lead of a movie and not be Carrot Top.
That's true. That's true. It was representation.
Well, now, I'm going to draw you a little bit into your own mythology here. So explain to us, if you can, how Please Don't Destroy, how did you find that name? It certainly is different.
Yeah, somebody told us it's the only group name without a noun in it. Yeah, we all met in college, and John and I were on this sketch group together through NYU, and Martin and I were doing stand-up, and we started a stand-up show together called Please Don't Destroy My Farm, where I was an evil businessman, and he was in character as a farmer, and we hosted the show. We had traditional stand-up comedians on in between our little weird play that was going on. And we had John play a cow who didn't speak for the whole show, because we thought that would be funny, I guess.
And then he did a monologue at the end and shot himself.
That's true.
And that was how the show ended.
Yes.
Yeah. Eventually, we just started doing more traditional sketches and dropped the big premise of the show. But for a while, it was please don't destroy my blank, like my after-school pizza hangout, or my, I don't know, what was the
Raymore and Flanagan.
The furniture and stuff. So they would take place in a new location every show, and we would do this weird comedy play weaving between stand-ups. And eventually we were like, this seems more complicated than it needs to be. So we just started doing sketches, and we just dropped the my and just called ourselves Please Don't Destroy.
How did you guys get chosen for SNL?
We had that show, the Please Don't Destroy show, that was monthly when we were in college, and then it sort of became a weekly show at this bar bond downtown. So we were doing a lot of live comedy in New York, and we had the show every week where we were doing 6 new sketches a night, and we were doing other people's shows and stuff. And then the pandemic happened, and all of a sudden we couldn't do any live shows anymore. And so we started making videos together. We'd previously done 1 or 2 videos, but really we were, thought of ourselves as live performers. And then the videos sort of started gaining some traction online, and I think people here started to take notice. A couple of them went viral and stuff, and then the pandemic ended, everyone got vaccinated, and live shows came back, and we started performing in the city again, and SNL people sort of gradually started coming to shows. So we would do an hour, at the Knitting Factory or wherever, and a couple producers or a writer and a producer would show up and watch the show. And then eventually, after 4 or 5 of those sort of hour-long sketch shows that we were putting on, Lorne came to one, Lorne Michaels, and he watched it, and I guess he liked what he saw, and then that's sort of how we ended up here.
Well, now, I was looking through your first season there, and they would list each of the shorts that you made, and inevitably there would be a thing at the end that said "cut for time." So I wonder, why did that happen, and what changed that made you guys a part of the rotation pretty much every week, which has got to be a tough thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think like just earning trust with both people at the show and the audience over time is how we started getting on air. I mean, the first one we ever made, we just shot it in our office with us, 2 cameras, a sound guy, and then the director who directed our movie, Paul Briganti. We just did it on our own. Nobody really asked us to. And then we showed it to some people, and they were like, okay, I like this. And they showed it in dress, and it did well, and then it got on the show. So the first one we ever made aired. But then after that, I think we had a run of like making a bunch of videos that I think we thought were pretty solid, but just kind of didn't make it. That was at a time when the cast was like really big. It was when Kate McKinnon and OBrien and Pete Davidson and Kyle Mooney, all these people were still here. I think 8 people left after our first year to our second year. So that just inevitably frees up some space. But I also think like as hosts start like knowing our stuff more, they like will come in and sometimes want to do a video with us, which always helps.
Yeah, when they're looking for stuff to cut because the show's too long and there's a piece without the host in it, it's a very easy decision to lose that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the ones we made our first year didn't have any hosts in it.
Like, for instance, the one with Jenna Ortega, which I absolutely love. It's like a perfect little movie. How did that come about? And how, I mean, she seems like she's up for anything, and she doesn't get rattled, and she's just terrific. But how do you establish, okay, here's what we're going to do? Or even like with Rami Malek, that was sort of a little bit wild too. You wouldn't really expect that from him. But on the Jenna one, how did that come about? And how difficult was that to put together? It's very seamless.
I think, well, with a lot of our music ones, we ask our friend Dan Bulla, who helped us do the Taylor Swift 3 Sad Virgins piece too. And I think one of us had an idea, maybe Mart, you were like a road trip thing where it cuts in and out or something.
Oh, I think the idea was like that it's like giving directions wrong on a road trip or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was some other vague thing, and then we came to the music thing and we decided, we were like, oh, Dan would be perfect for that. So the 4 of us. And Dan Bulla wrote it.
Yeah, and we listened to Holiday Road, that song, Holiday Road, like to kind of like find the vibe of it and how harsh the cutouts could be of us getting angrier and angrier with each other, like how peeved off you get at somebody on a long road trip. And then I think we kind of just pitched it to Jenna.
We read it at table.
Oh yeah, we read it at table.
We like in front of all the cast and producers we sung it out loud and read it at table read, and it did well, and then it got fixed, and then we made it.
Which I think is a little, especially with music, is kind of a cheat code, because people I think feel bad for us when we're singing live because we're not that good at singing. Yeah. So it kind of like helps the laughter get going because they feel at the table, because they feel a little embarrassed for us.
Now, we know from Treasure of Foggy Mountain, which I believe is a completely true story, that Ben is the son of Conan O'Brien.
Yeah.
Ron, your dad was a writer for the show, right? Steve Higgins.
Yeah.
And I think, Martin, your dad is Tim Herlihy, who I think also was an SNL writer, right?
Yeah, he was back in like Sandler era.
And so what is your great memory of being a young person and coming to work and being just part of that SNL lore?
It's really crazy. I remember, which is a thing that we're actually going to be doing this week, where they have the tree lighting ceremony where people can bring in their kids and stuff and watch the tree from the 17th floor. And I remember coming to those as a kid and feeling like this is the coolest office that you could ever work in. So to be here and to be here as a employee at that Christmas tree lighting ceremony is pretty special and amazing, and I feel really lucky.
Yeah.
But now the coolest thing takes place at the after party, from what I understand.
Yeah, with all the drugs and alcohol, definitely.
And Martin, how about you?
You know, I don't remember. I was so young. I remember seeing a picture of me as a baby here and being like, oh, wow. Yeah, no, I don't have that.
So, you know, the shorts really got a lot of traction when Andy Samberg and his guys came in and did that. And Lazy Sunday got a big viral pop. Do you have those? Has that social media thing changed, or is that a big benefit to what you guys do? Because you don't really have to know anything else that's going on to watch each of them. They're complete stories, like the one with Martin Short and Steve Martin. I mean, it's just hilarious, and they're self-contained. How helpful now is the viral pop from these things?
Super helpful.
Yeah,
it's interesting because, first of all, those guys totally paved the way, and we love them. Yeah. They're so funny. Hot Rod was my runner-up for
mine too.
Movie that lit my fuse. But so I think it's even changed so much since they were here that now it feels like Instagram Reels and TikTok are kind of where most people are watching. I mean, YouTube is still a lot of it, but so many people are watching videos in vertical clips online. And sometimes it's you have to make them even shorter than what aired on the show, which is usually a 3-minute video to hold people's attention now.
Totally.
And there are things if it has captions on it, people will be more likely to watch it because a lot of times you're on your phone. It's just the landscape of how we consume things has changed so much that it is our Bad Bunny video where he was Shrek did it very well online. And I think so much of that is it's just a click, a really quick, clear visual thing that makes you laugh right away.
And it's also that it's changed. There's not, that video did well, and it was such a quick thing. People move on so fast, and there's not really a oh my god, did you see the big YouTube video this week? That.
And Lazy Sunday was actually that was when YouTube kind of popped off. I remember listening to some interview with the Lonely Island or something where it was people started sharing that video through YouTube, which they didn't know about before. And it was a story for a week of not only was there this really funny video, but there was this new website. Yeah.
So now, on your way up, as you guys were finding your way as a trio, what movie or series did you watch that was so good it made you question, man, should we be doing this? Can we ever rise to that level?
That's a good question. There's so much stuff.
Things that I think that we watched together, that I can remember us watching together, are Nathan For You.
Mm-hmm. Nathan Fielder's show.
Really funny Comedy Central show that Nathan Fielder made. And Detroiters.
Yeah, that was
Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson. Such a funny, short-lived sitcom, also on Comedy Central.
I remember watching Oh Hello when we were very, starting out and stuff, and feeling just reinvigorated watching that.
Totally.
Of doing all these shows and sometimes bombing and feeling, and then just seeing something that was just so perfectly written.
Yeah.
Really was oh man, we should aspire to be writing like this.
Totally. And this is a weird retroactive one, but I feel I don't mention enough. But Key and Peele in high school was those sketches were just perfect. And I went kind of on a run during Thanksgiving of just these are pretty flawless sketches, and I always forget how much I watched Key and Peele growing up.
It's almost annoying how many hits they have.
I know. It's just every episode is full of just heater after heater.
You mean that horror director guy?
Yeah. That's gonna be Martin. He's gonna leave comedy to do the horror.
Spooky movie.
Well, now, whether it was the success of your own work or approval from someone who mattered to you, What first gave you the confidence that in fact you should be doing this, and yeah, you did belong?
I think working in a group, a lot of it comes from these two guys. If they think it's fun, when you just spend every day with each other, trying to one up each other, trying to get better together, a lot of it is approval from them that, especially at the beginning, helps you keep going. But in a kind of more macro way, doing a video with Taylor Swift, I was like, hell yeah.
Also, like, yeah, starting out, really helpful for me. I had been writing stuff in high school, but like performing wise, Moss Perricone, Rachel Sennett, and Carmen Christopher were all comedians who were like very supportive of us and very nice, and especially when I was like 17 or whatever, like
totally.
Just, like, being way nicer than they had to be.
Booking us on their shows. Yeah, a lot of like getting approval in the scene was a really big deal. And a big part of like why we decided to like break off from the Please Don't Destroy My Farm thing is because Carmen asked us, he's this really funny comedian who's in our movie too, asked us to do a show and do just sketches on a show, and it was, it kind of paved the way for us to do that.
Well, you mentioned Taylor Swift, and so I remember this great bit that with Beyonce that Justin Timberlake was in, and Bobby Moynihan and Andy Samberg, and they're dressed in those, sexy leotards, and they're the backup singers, and Justin talking about how intimidating it was to go to her and try to, get
picture
her to wall. So when you're with someone like Taylor Swift, who has to, who certainly is cognizant of her image, what is that like? How do you convince her to do what you need?
You go in with that same anxiety that Timberlake had, where it's just like, I can't even believe I have the opportunity to be in a room with her and pitch her an idea. But luckily for us, she was the coolest ever, and was like, we were like, it's this thing called Three Sad Virgins, and that's what you're calling us, and it's this big song. And pretty immediately she was like, I get it, I'm in. So
it was pretty shockingly seamless.
Yeah.
I would not have expected her in a million years to say yes.
Yeah.
But I think what also helped was we had, again with our friend Dan Bulla, recorded a full like demo track of the song. So she could just hear exactly what she was going to do. She got it, and she was like, oh, this is easy enough and funny. So yeah, why not?
Well, contrast that with getting Travis Kelce to portray Kurt Lightning, which, by the way, my hat's off to you guys. The juxtaposition of the punch and when you guys were laying there dead was the same thing. So what was that like?
Well, thank you for that. We worked hard on that edit to make sure it was just like a flat collapse.
He was extremely game.
So cool.
He was one of our favorite hosts ever.
Yeah, he's the sweetest dude.
Yeah.
You never know with an athlete host what the vibe is going to be. But he came in and was so charming, so funny.
Yeah.
Totally got it, and was like pitching jokes and doing bits. I don't know. He was really, really good. It just kind of came together.
Well, now, I'm imagining what it must be for you guys, and especially when you were doing it on stage. And John, you're up there dressed like a cow. What would you say was the biggest obstacle that the three of you had to overcome to allow you to turn the things that influenced you into your own language as comedians?
It feels like a boring answer, but I honestly think it was just time, where it was like you have all of this influence, and we share so much of the same stuff that we love. Like every one of the films that we talked about before this, it was like, yeah, that could be mine. Wet Hot could be mine. Napoleon Dynamite could be mine. Like when you have such a shared like love of things, the tricky thing is not just directly stealing from them. And I think that just comes with doing it over and over again and trying to one-up each other and find something new out of that love for things. So I honestly think it's just time.
And I noticed you didn't mention any great movies with trios in them. Three Amigos, well, the Three Stooges wasn't a movie, but
Yeah.
and if I had to ask you for an example of where three is the best combination, what might you say?
I mean, The Stooges, Three Amigos, Lonely Island.
This is a bad answer because it's the wrong number, but it's Always Sunny, which is 5 people, more than 3, not what you asked. But I watched that show in high school, and the dynamic that they have of like trading off. No one is ever not funny in an episode, which is I think what we try to do in a lot of our videos, like each be funny, and yeah, they just have a nice dynamic, like we're kind of revolving. Everyone plays off each other, and it's funny, but also like grounded.
I don't think any of us ever like set out to like be in a trio.
Yeah.
Like, that's a funny thing that like we just were kind of best friends and we really made each other laugh, so we wanted to do comedy together. But I don't know, people I think tend to be like, oh, you guys saw like Workaholics or like other trios, and I don't know if that was ever really the thing.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you need an odd number of people to settle arguments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's helpful.
and 5 is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get. Well, now, my last question here is, so what burned in you guys to tell the Treasure of Foggy Mountain story? And maybe was there a North Star? I mean, there were many, a lot of Bill Murray comedies, the Goonies, or give me a sense as to how that came together. We don't see a lot of them anymore, and I just find that there's so many excuses to be funny, but give me a sense as to how this movie came together and why it all worked out so well.
I think a lot, I mean, like, in terms of North Star, it's like, yeah, what you mentioned, the Goonies, old Bill Murray stuff, like, but I think it was being nostalgic for a time when those movies were common. Like, we feel like really hard comedies don't exist as much anymore. And, like, for the opportunity to kind of try to do one again felt like the goal. So the fact that Judd and Universal gave us this opportunity, and Jimmy Miller, like, it just felt like, let's try to do the best we can at, like, giving you something really dumb and fun where you don't have to think for an hour and a half. And hopefully we pulled it off.
I agree. I think, like, I mean, when I was growing up, my fondest memories were, like, after my parents got divorced, I would go spend the night at my dad's house, and we would go to Hollywood Video and rent a comedy movie and watch it and laugh, and, like, that's what we really bonded over. And, like, basically every movie I watched as a kid was a comedy.
Yeah.
And now there's maybe like 2 or 3 a year, it feels like, if that. And so I think, like, the opportunity to just make, like, a big, silly movie that doesn't take itself seriously, that is purely just trying to be fun and funny, was really appealing to us. It didn't have, like, a heavy-handed message or, like, melodrama to it. That was just like, we want you to have fun and stay up late and quote this with your friends.
Well, now, and then my last question is, so John cracked the rotation, and he got to play DeSantis and actually live, and so I guess I'm wondering, for Ben and Martin, what nationally known person are you dying to get on the, should we put in for you guys to play?
Biden coming for Mikey Day's spot, coming for Biden, coming for Trump. Watch out, James.
I'm working on a King Charles right now.
Prince Harry, Ron Weasley,
Howard Stern.